Imagine a forest so terrifying that even fully armed, battalions of soldiers refuse to enter. The Jalini forest in the ancient kingdom of Kosala. The trees are thick, the shadows are long, and the silence is absolute. It is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of predators. The villages bordering this forest have been abandoned. Homes are left to rot, doors swinging open in the wind. Why? Because of one man. He moves through the trees like a phantom. He does not steal gold. He does not take hostages for ransom. He takes only one thing: the right little finger of his victims. He strings these severed fingers together on a coarse cord and wears them around his neck. Blood stains his chest. The decaying flesh flies around him like a gruesome halo. The locals do not even know his real name anymore. They call him 앙굴리말라, the one who wears a garland of fingers. He has collected 999 fingers. He needs just one more to complete his dark vow of 1,000. Today, we are going to look into the eyes of a monster. But what we find will not be a demon born of pure evil. We will find a tragic victim of psychological manipulation, blind obedience, and broken trust. And more shockingly, we will discover how the Buddha approached this mass murderer, not with the sword of execution, but with a radical system of justice that modern sociology is only just beginning to understand. Welcome to the darkest, most terrifying, and ultimately most beautiful story hidden in the Buddhist scriptures. To understand the monster, we must first meet the boy. 앙굴리말라's real name was Ahimsaka. In the ancient language of Pali, Ahimsaka literally means the harmless one. He was born into a noble Brahmin family, the son of the king's head priest. He was handsome, incredibly intelligent, physically strong, and completely devoted to his elders. He was sent to the prestigious university city of Chuda, Taxila, the ancient equivalent of Harvard or Oxford. There he became the star pupil of the most renowned guru in the land. Ahimsaka was so dedicated, so brilliant, that he lived in the guru's house, serving him day and night. But in the highly competitive environment of ancient academia, brilliance breeds jealousy. His fellow students, realizing they could never surpass him in skill, decided to destroy him with whispers. They orchestrated a systematic campaign of defamation, planting seeds of doubt in the guru's mind. They whispered that Ahimsaka was plotting to overthrow the guru, that he was arrogant, and even that he was inappropriately involved with the guru's wife. At first, the guru dismissed these rumors, but poison, when dripped slowly enough, eventually rots. The strongest foundation. The guru's pride was wounded, his paranoia ignited. He decided to eliminate his best student. But as a revered teacher, he could not simply murder a student without ruining his own reputation. So he devised a trap of psychological torture. On the day of graduation, when it was time for Ahimsaka to offer the traditional dakshina, the final gift or fee given to a teacher, the guru made a demand that froze the blood in Ahimsaka's veins. "I do not want gold," the guru said. "Your tuition will be paid in blood. Bring me 1,000 human fingers, each from a different victim. Only then will your training be complete, and only then will you achieve ultimate spiritual liberation." Pause for a moment and put yourself in Ahimsaka's shoes. You have been raised in a strict orthodox culture, where the guru is equated with God. Disobeying your teacher is the ultimate sin, a path straight to hell. You are a scholar of ethics, a man named Harmless, and now the figure of absolute authority in your life has commanded you to become a mass murderer. This is not just ancient mythology. This is the chilling reality of radicalization. From cult leaders to totalitarian dictators, history is full of ordinary, intelligent people who have been groomed into committing atrocities through the manipulation of loyalty and authority. Ahimsaka's mind fractured. The cognitive dissonance was too great. To resolve it, he abandoned his humanity. He took up a sword, left the university, and walked into the Jalini forest. Ahimsaka died, and Ангулимала was born. He attacked travelers, merchants, and soldiers. To keep track of the count, he initially hung the fingers on tree branches, but the birds and scavengers took them. So, he began to string them around his neck. 10, 50, 300, 800. With every kill, his trauma deepened. His madness solidified. The blood on his hands blinded his soul. News of the serial killer reached the capital, Savatthi. King Pasenadi mobilized a massive army to hunt down Ангулимала. In the village, Ангулимала's mother heard the news. Knowing her son was about to be slaughtered by the royal army, maternal love overcame all fear. She packed some food and set out toward the forest of death alone, desperate to warn her son. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Ангулимала was unhinged. He had 999 fingers. He needed just one more. His mind was a storm of paranoia and bloodlust. He saw a figure approaching through the trees. He gripped his sword. As the figure drew near, his bloodshot eyes recognized the face. It was his mother. According to ancient Indian belief, killing one's mother is an unforgivable cosmic crime, an act that damns the soul to the lowest hell for eternity. But Ангулимала's obsession had eclipsed his sanity. He raised his sword, ready to slaughter his own mother for the 1,000th finger. But before he could swing the blade, another figure appeared on the path. A monk, dressed in simple robes, walking calmly and silently. It was Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. With his divine eye, the Buddha had seen the impending tragedy and had walked into the haunted forest, entirely alone to intercept the killer. Ангулимала sneered, a wandering monk, a much easier target than his mother. He redirected his rage. He gripped his sword, covered in dried blood, and charged at the Buddha. What happened next is one of the most profound encounters in human history. Ангулимала, a physically powerful man fueled by adrenaline and madness, sprinted toward the Buddha. The Buddha, however, was walking at his normal, slow, mindful pace. But no matter how fast Ангулимала ran, he could not close the distance. He sprinted until his lungs burned, until his legs cramped, until sweat and blood stung his eyes. Yet the Buddha remained exactly the same distance ahead, walking with serene tranquility. It was a physical manifestation of a psychological truth. You cannot catch peace with the legs of violence. Exhausted, broken, and completely baffled, Ангулимала finally stopped. He leaned on his sword, gasping for air, and screamed into the silent forest. "Stop, ascetic! Stop!" The Buddha did not turn around. He continued his slow, graceful walk, and his voice, calm and deep as the ocean, echoed through the trees. "I have stopped, Ангулимала. I have stopped forever. It is you who have not stopped." Ангулимала was stunned. "What do you mean, you have stopped? You are still walking. I am the one standing still." The Buddha turned and looked at the blood-soaked killer. There was no fear in his eyes, no judgment, only a vast, crushing compassion. "I have stopped, Ангулимала. I have stopped committing violence against all living beings. I have stopped the cycle of hatred and harm. But you are still running. You are running in the endless cycle of killing, delusion, and suffering. It is you who must stop." In that single moment, the psychological fortress that Ангулимала had built around his horrific deeds completely shattered. The heavy, bloody necklace of fingers felt exactly like what it was: a chain of immense suffering. The cognitive dissonance was resolved not by more violence, but by absolute truth. The monster fell to his knees, threw away his sword, and wept. He begged the Buddha to ordain him. Right there, in the forest of death, the serial killer became a monk. Why is this story so critical for us today? because it fundamentally challenges everything we believe about crime, punishment, and justice. Modern scholar David Lloyd deeply analyzes the Ангулимала Sutta to highlight a profound contrast between modern criminal justice and the Buddhist perspective. Today, our global justice systems are almost entirely retributive. If you commit a crime, the state inflicts pain upon you in the form of imprisonment or execution. The focus is on punishing the offender to satisfy society's demand for vengeance. But does this reform the criminal? Often, prisons simply act as universities for crime, breeding more resentment and violence. The Buddha's approach to Angulimala, however, represents a radical form of restorative justice. The Buddha did not ask, "How can we make this man suffer for what he has done?" Instead, he asked, "What is the root cause of his suffering, and how can we reform his mind?" By ordaining Angulimala, the Buddha demonstrated that the ultimate goal of justice should not be the destruction of the offender's body, but the total transformation of the offender's mind. When King Pasenadi arrived with his army to hunt the killer, he was shocked to find Angulimala sitting peacefully in meditation with shaved hair and a monk's robe. The king, recognizing the profound transformation, bowed to the former serial killer. The state's machinery of violence was rendered useless in the face of absolute psychological rehabilitation. In Chinese Pure Land Buddhist literature, there is a deep, ongoing dialogue about whether an evil, morally flawed person can attain salvation. Scholars like Peng Shaosheng argued for the absolute soteriological inclusiveness of the Dharma. The story of Angulimala is the ultimate proof of this inclusiveness. No matter how deep your sins, no matter how heavy your karma, the capacity for awakening remains intact within you. But wait, does this mean Angulimala simply got away with murder? Did he put on a monk's robe and magically erase the fact that he slaughtered 999 innocent people? Absolutely not. And this is where the Buddhist doctrine of karma separates itself from the concept of a magical forgiveness that wipes the slate clean. As scholar Jayarava Michael Atwood notes in his analysis of early Buddhist ethics, confessing a crime or changing one's path does not eradicate the consequences of the action. It merely allows for the mitigation of those consequences. The law of karmic causality. Inga is absolute and inviolable, a concept heavily emphasized in texts like Dogen's 12 Fascicles collection, which stresses the necessity of sincere repentance. Zhang, Angulimala became an enlightened arahant. His mind was completely free of greed, anger, and delusion. But his physical body still had to pay the debt of his past actions. One morning, Angulimala went into the city of Savatthi to beg for food. The citizens recognized him. The trauma and terror he had inflicted on the city were still fresh. Enraged and grieving for their murdered relatives, the villagers attacked him. They threw stones, heavy sticks, and broken pots. Angulimala's head was split open. Blood poured down his face. His begging bowl was shattered, and his robes were torn. If he were the old Angulimala, he would have drawn a sword and slaughtered the entire street. But he was an arahant now. He felt the physical pain, but his mind remained perfectly serene, filled only with compassion for his attackers. Bleeding heavily, he staggered back to the monastery and fell at the Buddha's feet. The Buddha looked at his battered disciple and delivered a chilling yet profoundly comforting truth. Bear it, Brahman, bear it. You are experiencing here and now the result of deeds that would have caused you to burn in the lowest hells for thousands of eons. Because you have stopped, because you have transformed your mind, the mountain of your karma has been reduced to this physical beating. This is the brilliant mathematics of Buddhist karma. You cannot escape the consequences of your actions, but the magnitude of the consequence depends on the container of your mind. If you put a spoonful of salt into a small cup of water, it becomes undrinkable. But if you throw that same spoonful of salt into a vast flowing river, you won't even taste it. 앙굴리말라's past crimes were a massive block of salt. But by expanding his mind to the size of an infinite, compassionate river, he was able to absorb the karmic impact without losing his spiritual peace. My friends from around the world, you might look at 앙굴리말라 and think, I am nothing like him. I am not a murderer. But let us be painfully honest with ourselves. We may not be cutting off physical fingers, but aren't we all wandering through the dark forests of our own lives, obsessively collecting things to build our own gruesome necklaces? Some of us collect grievances. We hold on to every insult, every betrayal, stringing them around our necks until the weight of our resentment chokes the joy out of our lives. Some of us collect status, wealth, or power, ruthlessly cutting down our competitors, colleagues, or even friends, in our blind obedience to the modern guru called success. We tell ourselves we just need one more promotion, one more zero in our bank account, one more finger to complete the set, and then we will be happy. But the tragedy of the necklace is that it is never finished. Delusion always demands one more finger. The more you collect, the more you become a monster, running endlessly through a forest of anxiety and exhaustion. The criminal justice systems of our world try to punish the symptoms of our broken society, but true restorative justice must begin inside your own mind. You must realize that the inviolable law of karma guarantees that every act of greed and anger you commit will eventually return to strike you like a stone in the street. Do you want to end the suffering? Do you want to stop running? Then you must hear the voice of the Buddha echoing through the ancient trees, speaking directly to you right now, in whatever dark forest you find yourself. I have stopped. It is you who have not stopped. Stop justifying your anger. Stop blindly obeying the toxic demands of a society that measures your worth by what you collect. Drop your sword of ambition and resentment. The moment you truly stop, the moment you open your heart to the restorative power of mindfulness and compassion, your heavy necklace will fall to the dirt. You cannot change the past, and you may still have to bear the stones thrown by the consequences of your previous mistakes. But if you expand your mind into a vast river, those stones will no longer break you. You are not the monster you think you are. You are simply a traveler who forgot how to stand still. It is time to drop the necklace. It is time to stop. Thank you.